It's a given.
The only thing that's still quite strange is directors. You know, Mira maybe is the third female director I've ever worked with ever.
Yeah.
In 18 years of work, which is ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah.
So how having a story about a female, famous female, apparently one of the most 10 famous females in the world ever. Apparently, that's what it says. And then working with a female a female director.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that experience for you?
Well, I think it still is quite unusual to be directed by a woman in this business. It's still very rare. I mean, I was directed by Pat Murphy in a film called Nora, where I played James Joyce. I was directed by, I remember, one or two other women maybe, and then Mira. I think Mira is maybe my my third female director. I started working in '92, so that's not very good. It's not a very good record. So it's quite interesting. We were just discussing, you know, how women's roles in society have changed, and would they have changed without characters like Amelia Earhart, you know, who made a difference, and who made a difference for women all around the world, because she became so famous, and was famous to be seen to be doing something that was regarded as a man's job, flying one of these complicated aircraft. I mean, they were so basic in those days. You know, it must have been very, very difficult to fly one at all. And yet she was flying twin-engined aircraft like the Electra. She set a height record in a very early and basic helicopter-type aircraft. She would turn her hand to anything. She just wanted to fly.
Well, then you have to think that probably now that earlier you described Gene Vidal and where he came from. He was a football player. He was in aviation. He went to West Point, a man's world, and all of that. It must have been quite interesting for him to come upon and actually work as a peer with a woman at that time in the late 20s, early 30s. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, no, I think they had they shared something immediately, in that they shared their love of flying, and maybe that broke down all of everything else. Maybe that was a direct line into something very special that they really shared and loved each other through that, if you like, or maybe that's what brought them there. You know, I think his situation was very complicated. I believe his wife was an alcoholic. Which can't have been very easy. He had his son Gore there, and you know, I think that must have been when he was probably clearly quite a busy man who's working at West Point and teaching there, but also working in the government and setting up airlines. He must have been incredibly busy, and at the same time having this terrible pain of having a wife who's unwell and the worry of his son in the background. It can't have been a very great place to be. And then he found Amelia, and I think shared something really special with her.
Right, and back in the day, I would imagine there were few and far between the women in his world that could maybe speak on his level.
Yeah. Well, I guess they talked and argued about her journeys, you know, about what was achievable and what wasn't. But really, he would have known absolutely from a technical standpoint, and also knew about her as a pilot and what she was capable of and what she wasn't capable of. I mean, I think he was quite pragmatic about that, and certainly in the scene with George towards the end, when they're arguing about whether she should do the round the world trip or not. You know, he says he says she doesn't have the flying skills to. He says, well, that she'll refuel in the air. In the 1930s, I know my brother was a pilot in the RAF and spent a lot of time refueling in there, so I know all about that and how that's achieved, and it's enormously complicated today with modern technology, but then I can't imagine. And Gene was like, what is this guy talking about? She's going to refuel in the air? You know, George was just pushing her too hard, I guess.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. And then earlier we were talking about working with Hilary Swank, and that you had looked forward to working with her. She was your friend, and you finally found this time to work together. And we were talking about how she really transformed herself, like a Meryl Streep type actor, transforms herself right in front of your eyes. Can you talk about Hilary?
Yeah. Well, I was just because I came into they'd started shooting the film, and I was shooting something else at the same time, and literally, they worked the schedule out. So I would have 3 or 4 days off on the film in Louisiana, and I'd get in a plane and I'd land and go on set, and I'd be shooting with Hilary, and then I'd be back and I'd be doing the film, and I went back and forward. So I arrived after they'd started. I hadn't been involved in any rehearsals or any of the preparation. I arrived, I went straight to a wardrobe fitting. I got into some absolutely beautiful clothing that Jean wore, and the next day I was on set with Hilary, and so there was no. I hadn't seen her playing Amelia. I hadn't seen any footage. I'd seen some photographs all around the wardrobe room where I did my fittings. There were pictures of Amelia, and there were some pictures of Hilary as Amelia. And then we talked through the first scene, and then the cameras rolled, and I suddenly was in a scene with Amelia Earhart. I mean, I hadn't because I'd never worked with. Although I know Hilary very well, I hadn't worked with her. I hadn't seen her. I hadn't seen how she worked, how she came to her performance, and the truth is it just happens effortlessly and seamlessly, so you're not even aware of it, and suddenly you're speaking to Amelia Earhart, and then someone shouts cut, and then you're speaking to Hilary again. It's very interesting.
What a gift for you.
Great, it's fantastic, and it's easy and lovely, and then you get to play, you're not having to, then you really get to play those scenes, and we had an opportunity to do that, which was great.
Oh, great. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
nice
much.
to meet you.
You too. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.